All right. Good morning, everyone. It is November 24th, 2020. We'll call the Wright County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you, everyone, in attendance and joining us remotely. We have 3 commissioners in-house and 2 remote. Actually, the first order of business is to approve the minutes from last week. If there's no corrections or questions.
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the November 17th minutes as presented.
Motion made by Commissioner Vetch. Is there a second?
Commissioner Burrell will second.
Seconded by Commissioner Potter. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner DeLayden?
Aye.
Burrell?
Burrell votes aye.
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 Okay, minutes are approved. Thank you. Review and approval of the agenda. Anyone have anything to add?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve today's agenda as presented.
Motion made by Commissioner Vetch. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner DeLayden.
Madam Chair, this is 2 weeks in a row we haven't had to have additions to it. I tell you,
Nice. It's really
staff upstairs are going to be happy with us.
It helps a lot, for sure. All right, hearing no discussion, we'll start alphabetically this time. Commissioner Burrell.
Burrell votes aye.
DeLayden?
Aye.
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 The agenda is approved. Consent agenda. Is there anything that anyone would like to remove for further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote.
Madam Chair. Burrell will second then.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Potter, seconded by, Commissioner Burrell. I thought I heard 2 voices from the remote. All right. Yeah. All right, there's no more discussion. Roll call vote, Commissioner Burrell.
Burrell votes aye.
DeLayden?
DeLayden votes aye.
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 All right, the consent agenda is approved. We're moving right along to our timed agenda items. And we have Auditor Treasurer Bob Hedola.
Hey, good morning, Board. The first item on the agenda is to approve the October guideline. So at 83% of the year, outside of the line items I've drawn to your attention in the past, there's nothing more for me to draw your attention to. But I'm here if you have questions about them.
Does anyone have any questions on the October revenue expenditure budget and CIP report?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Commissioner DeLayden?
Yeah, I mean, it's not excessive, but court admin for the court-appointed attorneys is at about 120% and 45% over, or for about $45,000 over. And I'm just kind of curious on, I wonder why that's so high with the courts really not operating so much this year.
Commissioners, we were identifying that one also. I don't remember the feedback we got from court admin, but it's a guess number that we have from the budget process. It's the actual expenditure, so.
Yep.
I don't have an exact why it's way over.
Did we increase our budget for that this year or for next year, I wonder?
I don't recall that
Madam
we
Chair,
did.
wasn't that a transfer in because it used to live in HHS and we transferred that to? No, that was court admin. I'm thinking that was probation.
Yeah, that's court, yeah,
Probation
that's,
services
it's
for our
different.
placements, yeah.
We've always had this line item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I think it's just probably one of those things that you make your best estimate, and sometimes it's over and sometimes it's under, so.
But you can have a couple particular cases that
Right.
can just drive a cost way up,
Exactly.
and that's just the
They've-
abnormality of
Right,
it.
and they've been doing remote court, so I don't know what kind of cases, but,
Madam Chair, for the November guideline, we'll have a written explanation.
okay, good, thank you. Any other,
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Bob.
Madam Chair,
I'll make a motion to approve
the
it.
October, revenue expenditure CIP update or guideline.
all right.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Commissioner Besch, seconded by Commissioner Delyden. Any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Burrell?
Burrell votes aye.
Delyden?
Delight votes aye.
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 All right.
I'm feeling compelled to have to say my name now.
Commissioners, the second item is the authorized purchase of 26 Omni Ballot assisted voting technology devices from SeaChange. I have to admit that this morning I had a call with some of the other counties who have purchased this. And it gives me a little bit of pause that while the state did give us grant money for this, I'm not sure that this is truly vetted out. So I don't know if we just want to buy a couple to test it, knowing that 50% of it is by the grant and return the rest of the grant, or just say no to this technology right now. The one thing I am aware of is that our current AutoMark machines that nobody uses run on Windows 7. If Microsoft will stop supporting Windows 7, that devices have to be replaced anyway, so.
It's-
Kind of up to you. It's $53,000 grant that we give them back, so.
I hate to have to spend their $53,000 grant, and we have to kick in another $53,000 for technology that's not quite proven yet, particularly if other counties are saying they're having problems and they're sending the money back, the grant money back. I mean, I don't see there's any reason for us to rush into this. I mean, we have Minlars, you know, we've always got Minlars to
Yeah.
compare to, and I mean, I don't want to go forward with something that may not be.
Madam Chair, the only thing I'll add is, it is new technology, so the counties are getting used to it. But I think after work groups get put together, it would be better. But I agree with you. It's $53,000 just to match state grant. To fully fund this for the whole county, we're over $220,000.
Well, yeah, and that's a big expense if it's not working real well for other people, but Commissioner Vesh, you had a
Well,
question?
my question is, okay, so if maybe Mr. Fomby back there has a better idea when Microsoft may not support Windows 7. I don't know. But if they don't support 07 in say 2022, now we have to replace the auto marks, and based on the deficit of the state, there's not going to be any grant money in all likelihood. So then we're going to be paying $200,000 straight out of our pocket. And is there going to be new technology out there better than this between now and 2022? I mean, you know how election equipment, how hard it is to get it through the legislature. That's.
Madam Chair, I'll take one poke at it. You know, we did demo other equipment, and we did fight for the choice of our equipment. I think the other equipment that we would have purchased would have been better. But I mean, Wisconsin, Iowa, North and South Dakota are using that other.
Matthew, did you have a comment?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. Windows 7 support ended in January of this year.
Oh,
So
it's
been
already
dead
killed.
For about 11 months.
So essentially, our auto marks wouldn't make it another election
Well,
potential.
that's the rumor that's going around, that they'll be unsupported, so.
Commissioner Potter?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So Bob, well, how long does this grant go before it's got to be turned in? What's the deadline?
This grant has to be expended this year,
This year.
So by the end of,
by December, or
So, Madam
December
Chair,
31st or March.
so Madam Chair, I'd respectfully ask to table this for 1 week to get a little bit more information on those other counties, since this is a brand new firm. Just get us a little bit more background. Because before I say yes, before I say no, just hearing this today, I'd like to get a little background from the other ones of what's going on here, because as we got to the end of the year, you know, a week should be able to gather some information so we can make a good informed decision.
yeah, that's certainly fine with me, because, you know, when you get this and then you find out that it hasn't been working for others, it's a little bit concerning, so it would be good to do some more investigation on this.
Yeah. So my motion is to table this for a week to gather a little bit of information for the commissioners so we can make a better informed decision.
I'm okay with that.
All right?
I mean, with the chaos of the elections and everything, all the moving parts, I think bringing on new technology also could have been one of the reasons they're frustrated.
Right. Yep.
Madam Chair, Burrell will second that.
All right, thank you. So motion made by Commissioner Potter, seconded by Commissioner Burrell. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Commissioner Burrell.
Burrell votes aye.
Mr. Lyden?
Aye.
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 All right, that is tabled. Thank you, Bob, for bringing that. All right, Mr. Matt Detchen is not here in person, so he must be here remotely. I just haven't spotted his.
I see the MD on there.
There he is. Okay,
He's a doctor.
there he is.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Good morning.
Just one item today, it's to approve the findings and order directing a repair to Wright County Ditch Number 10 pursuant to Minnesota Statute 103.715.
All right,
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the findings and order directing a repair to Wright County Ditch 10 pursuant to statute 103E.715.
all right,
Burrell will second that, but I do have discussion.
all right. Motion made by Commissioner Vetch, seconded by Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Burrell.
Matt, is this, have we already picked contractors for this, or where are we at on that end of it?
Yeah, so I sent out requests for proposals for the tree removal part. That'll be due in May of the spring, and then Mark is working on the full system repair. He's hoping to bid that early January.
Okay, and I guess my question is it going to be split up kind of in such a way that we can get some local contractors? It just seems like we've done this before where it makes it, they'll make the time so short or whatever where we can't get local contractors, and I think we do get better pricing from local contractors, so I guess I want to know where we're at on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mark's on the call here too. He looked over the bid specs because that was a big discussion point, is how to break it up in order to get local contractors, that maybe couldn't take on the full project. So it was broken up into 5 sections as bid alternatives, and gives them different time periods to complete each section. Depending on where we start digging. Obviously when we start repairs in the spring, we're going to want the trees removed in that section so the contractor, whoever does the cleaning, can start cleaning that section. So each section has a different due date, and that should help as well to push that deadline out as far as we can and still get the job done on time.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So we have a first and a second on a resolution. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Burrell.
Burrell votes aye.
Lyden?
Aye.
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 Resolution passes 5-0. Thank you, Mark. Okay. Mr. Mark Mattice. I had to flip my page. I had to flip my page to find you.
We're good.
Good morning.
Madam Chair, members of the board. Let's see. Back on November 3rd, we had a committee of the whole meeting to discuss expanding the nature-based education with Monticello schools. From that, you developed a small focus group, which consisted of some school board members, or some school staff, Commissioner Vetch and Commissioner Dahlheim. That focus group met on the 10th of November and came up with the following recommendation for your consideration, and that is to move forward with hiring a firm to help better understand the costs associated with facility construction. We have received, we went out and got 2 quotes. One is attached, Bradbury's Dam Construction, who was our guys that did the campground buildings. And then the school district got another one that just came in too late for your packet. That was from an architectural firm that actually they've worked with in the past. So two different methods here. One's a construction firm, so it's a contractor-based estimate, dealing with their subs and they're leading it with an architect, and the other one's an architect going the other way. So Bradbury Stam's estimate to do what we wanted to in phase one was $10,000, and GLTA Architects was $9,500. In your packet, you can see what they're looking at doing for a cost estimate, and that would include all the site work, you know, parking, septics, well investigation, everything like that. Would give you an idea of what the cost would be if you wanted to move forward, rather than my estimate that I just kind of threw out there for what, based on my knowledge of what construction costs are going.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Batch.
did we get a memo of understanding with the school district? And
I got an email saying, yes, we will split that 50-50, but I think if we approve that today, we need to have an agreement formed in writing with them, rather than Tina from the school saying, yes, we're in for half.
So
It'd
be a short one that, you know, Lee and I would probably sign.
Madam Chair, if I can take a moment just to kind of recap, we had a very, I would say semi-lengthy conversation. My biggest concern at this is that what the school is going to want is going to be vastly different than what we would build for a, I don't know what you call it, a multi-purpose functioning facility. And the question is that what is that cost share difference going to be for what we would pay, which would be nominal amount?
Right.
And the difference is the school district going to be inclined to want to make that large of a payment to get the facility that they need to administer this nature-based education. I just have a certain amount of concerns, because I think this is not going to be what we originally thought is maybe just a $2 million deal. I think it might be quite larger than that.
particularly with 10 to 12 classrooms. I mean, we wouldn't be building that kind of a, you know, facility for, I don't know if you want to call it kind of an entertainment facility or whatever, I mean, where people can have banquets and that kind of thing. That's essentially what we're looking at down the road, right? That's
We probably have one or two little breakout rooms, but
Right.
for the most part, it's a big box.
So, I mean, you're starting to get into the multi-million-dollar project, and it wouldn't be a 50-50 deal, you know, by any means. I mean, if we were gonna build a facility with, you know, the kitchen and the banquet meeting area or whatever you want to call it, and the two breakout rooms, or in an office, because that's appropriate. But that's what I'm kind of questioning too. It's not really a 50-50 deal, so I don't
No,
know.
it's, the cost of the construction, even at this point, would fall on the county, and it'd be leased back to the school.
Right,
So that terms would have to be favorable to us. And we did talk about budgeting. Commissioner Vetch brought up that would our park commission be interested in moving this up in our CIP? And right now, it's not in our 5-year CRP. I think it's probably in our 10-year plan to build this facility out there at best. And we have a lot of aging infrastructure. I don't think our Parks Commission's gonna be like, yeah, we want another brand-new facility over replacing the old 1974 restroom at Schroeder Park, which is our highest revenue generating park in the system.
Right.
Why would we're not gonna take that off the books. We already had to move that back 1 year due to some other things, so.
I mean, you know, I believe that it would be very well utilized, even without, I mean, at some point when we build this, because people are always looking for a venue for their weddings and their class reunions, whatever, and have trouble booking. So I can see that, but I just don't know if we're kind of are ready to get into that business right now, because
I think you're saying there's a Hortons and there's a cart, and we might not be in the right order.
yeah, something like that. And, you know, as much as I support this nature-based learning, I don't know if that's kind of up to us, you know? I mean, when school districts, if they can find the places, and we certainly have parks that they're, you know,
Yep.
like Nye and I mean, well, now Bertram, they're using that.
Yeah, the three schools worked out very well. The facilities we have for what we've expanded to this year are not that great.
Mark Deline, you have your hand up?
Wow.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. You know, one of the things that the reason we wanted to know, hiring an architect was so that we knew an exact amount or a heck of a lot better on what the actual costs were gonna be.
Right.
Because right now we have no idea what the real cost would be. And I don't know if we should proceed with this. I'm thinking that it would be an advantage to proceed with getting a realistic number so that we can, so that way the school district and possibly Mark can go out and possibly get some grants to help fund this because it's kind of a unique situation. So that's just my thoughts.
Commissioner Burrell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think my concerns are on the same lines as Commissioner Vetch's, that it's one thing if we have a facility already existing and be able to use it for this purpose, but to build a building kind of for this purpose and then thinking, oh, we could use it for some other things, you know, a wedding reception or whatever. I just kind of question that because there are so many facilities around already existing for weddings and things like that, and they barely make it the way it is. I'm just thinking of the Waverly Village Hall, the amount that they charge, you know, then it gets cleaned and they pay for the heat and they kind of barely break even on it. So I guess it's a real concern of mine. And I guess I'm not opposed to getting a price, as Commissioner Leiden said, but, you know, it's just, we can't be using too much county resources on something like this.
Yeah. Commissioner Beck? Oh.
So the only benefit of actually doing the cost estimate is it would be able to give us the ability then to sit down with the school district and determine how much they would pay versus us, and actually being able to delineate a cost, you know, a cost split between the two. And then at that point, they'd be in a better position to say, yes, we want to go forward, or no, we don't. However, if we're not in the position or interest to want to finance a building, even though the school district may be paying a large amount of it over a period of time, but we may be on the hook for building something that's $4 to $6 million. If the flavor's not there, I don't want to lead the school down a rabbit hole to spend $5,000, $4,500 on this cost estimate when we already know right now that it's not palatable for us to finance. Because, I mean, I have no interest in doing any kind of a bonding project. It would have to be cash in hand of a project,
Right.
which is complicated, especially if you're getting into that range of $6 million.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's,
I mean, that's where I'm in this, especially because I already have a lot of reservations on whether it even makes sense in the first place. So, I mean, as much as it'd be nice to get that construction document, does it make sense? Because we're probably not in the position to want to build it anyways.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I've always said if we're building a building, it's got to function for us first, the school second.
Right.
I think I've been quoted on that a number of times. So that's something to keep in mind. To do the cost estimate and then not have the financial backing seems like something we don't want to do, because if we're looking at this building 10 years from now, those numbers aren't going to be real. And that's just not prudent, I don't think.
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As much as you'd like to do all these things, this is kind of nicey. This does not fit into the core function of government, what we do. As you recall, how much heat we took for doing core function of government buildings. As far as, you know, as admin, the courts, everything else here, and all the heat we've taken for this, I think this would just add more fuel to the fire to those people that are kind of whipped up on this. And I just don't see this. If it's in a 10-year plan for us to build this building, we just got done paying for these parks. We're doing the build out of the important things, the real core function of the park, which people seem to be okay with paying for. We start adding this on, they're going to start, what's the hurry? And I agree with Mr. Mattice. is if you're not gonna build this for 10 years, these numbers here are gonna be irrelevant then.
Right.
With that, Madam Chair, I just make a motion to deny, taking action on this at this time.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Potter to essentially drop,
Yeah.
not move forward with getting a number.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Delyden and Mr. Vetch, or Commissioner Vetch.
And just to kind of piggyback or just kind of elaborate on Commissioner Potter's statements, because it is a core function of government as the fact that is education, but it's not our core.
Right.
It's not our core function. I mean, so,
Thanks for
I
the
mean,
correction.
yeah, and that's where, I mean, that's the reason we've struggled with it a lot. But I'm going to go with Commissioner Potter because it's not that we're building this or aiding the school district to build this because they don't have the space. They're doing it because they need to differentiate themselves to make themselves more viable in this competitive education market. And that's not something for us to partner with them on, maybe particularly as much as,
And I mean, we're not going, in 10 years, when we build this building, we're not going to have 20 classrooms in there, or, 12, however many, the 20? 12, 10 to 12.
10, 12.
And, I could tell you right now that it's going to be at least $6 million. I mean, at least.
I said 5.
I think basing on what the discussion was, you're right, Commissioner Easton, I think it's gonna be close to $6 million, and I have concerns on the financing of it, so.
Right, and I mean, because I just look at what it costs to build, I mean, you don't get a whole lot of home for $500,000 anymore, so I don't think that you could do this, I don't know if you could do it for $6 million actually, but anyway, but that's kind of maybe beside the point, the true points have been made, and it would be great to do this, but it's really the responsibility of the school district, so I think that we're right on with not moving forward with this at this time. Mr. Mattias? Mark? I thought you had,
I just nodding.
okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. One more point to make. We had a meeting with legislators last week. 4.5 to a $9 billion deficit, which is a hard choice that the state are going to be making. And you know that they're going to dump on us at the county. It's going to make our budget go up, make us look bad, because the state has to have a balanced budget, period. So if they take a 10% across the board agency cuts, where do you think, where's that balloon squeeze that end out? It squeezes out at the county end. I mean, I'm more concerned about that right now because that next biennium with that budget, they got some hard choices to make, depends on that budget forecast in February. And I just don't want to get us committed one way when we might have the elephant in the room on the other side, and I don't want to leave this office and have the deal with that issue that that's coming up. Something not really pleasant is going to come up for us there.
Thank you, Commissioner Potter.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it was
Yep.
a great topic. It was good discussion. I
Yep.
think we did our due diligence for the taxpayers, and so I appreciate everybody's time and.
I mean,
Right, and I thank you for doing that because, we have this request and it is a good idea. It's just doesn't quite work the way, it's not gonna quite work, so.
Not at this time.
Yeah, not at this time, so anyway. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, Commissioner Burrell?
Burrell votes aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
For all your hard work. Okay, next we have administration, the resolution for the establishment of the Wright County Economic Development Authority, and this has been a lot of hard work for months and months. So,
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Delight?
just a point. We did have a public hearing, I believe, at 9:30.
Yes, you are.
Yes, we did.
You are right.
Oh, yeah, we went
Thank
back.
you.
And Madam Chair, just so you're aware, I haven't received anyone who wants to comment. No one has reached out to me, so I don't think there's going to be public comment here. We got Mr. Kimmel here. Why don't you proceed with him, and
Okay.
we can delay the public hearing by 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner
Madam
Delight, you have your
Chair.
hand up?
Madam Chair, just before we begin discussion, I just want to let everybody know kind of my stance on this issue. I was basically against it all the way, and Commissioner Vetch convinced me to go along with this as far as liquidating some of our buildings and assets, and I will support it in that way. But I would support it, I should say, with a qualification that we sunset this and we put it in for 5 years. And if a future board feels that it's really valuable and wants to grant it, further life, that's fine. But I guess I would support it if we had it a sunset at this point in 5 years.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. And that actually came up during discussions at some point, and I don't know how other board members feel, but I'm fine. I'm fine with putting a 5-year sunset on it. We've got that with other things, and we can certainly review it, or the board can review it in 5 years and
Madam Chair,
determine that. Commissioner Vetch?
so I guess there's some mechanisms and working things that I would have some questions from Mr. Kimmel on, because I'm okay with that, because I think it makes sense from his perspective, but how does that work for projects that are in flex over, they would say there's a project that is not going to be completed before the dilution of the EDA, or if there's funds that are held by the EDA, what happens to those funds then? Do they get turned back to the county into the general fund? Because there is potential chance that there will be funds that will be held by the EDA from the liquidation of these properties.
So you're saying that if they decide, if the future board decides not to renew this,
what happens to the funds in there? What happens to the projects that are, I'm guessing the projects that are in the process.
The pipeline finish up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Bruce Kimmel, welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Would you like me to talk about that specific question?
Yes, please.
Okay. I think Commissioner Vetch raises a really good point. Not only might there be funds held by the EDA, which is technically a separate political subdivision, although for all intents and purposes, it functions really as a subdivision of the county. But yes, there could very well be funds held by the EDA. There might also be something, what we call a pay-as-you-go note, where there might be an abatement or a tax increment financing agreement under which the EDA has a responsibility to make payments from incremental new taxes to a private entity or another party over a course of some number of years. And so there could be a legacy responsibility or obligation there, even if you did terminate the EDA. I understand where Commissioner Burrell is coming from on this. I think that he's not the only one that has some concerns about, creep of mission and having entities that don't really have a purpose. But I would say that you can also just choose really not to utilize this entity going forward. It's up to the EDA board, which is going to be predominantly county commissioners, to decide whether and how to really effectively use the EDA going forward. And if there isn't a mission for it, and if there aren't any funds on hand or outstanding obligations, then you could certainly decertify and decommission the EDA at any point. But you could also just essentially let it go fallow, and there are cases where that has happened before. So, I think it's ultimately a policy question. I'm sure any of these issues could be worked out, but I also see, an alternative of if there isn't really a need for the EDA, you can basically just let the EDA sit fallow for whatever period of time without actually sunsetting it and abolishing it, and then having to go through this process all over again, right, if you were to resurrect it. So just food for thought there.
Thank you. And right now, almost all of our cities in the county have an EDA. So there's already that support there in the cities. So I think that's something to consider too. Perhaps, as Bruce said, when the county board, the EDA authority, determines that they've kind of fulfilled their function of why we created it in the first place, it could be dissolved at that point. But Commissioner Deline, you had a comment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Vetch brought up something that I just want to get clarified. If the EDA sells the properties, does that money then just go into the EDA, or are we allowed to put that money then back into the general fund? Or how does that work?
I can answer that, Madam Chair, if you'd like me to.
Sure, please.
The EDA really, it would be, essentially, there would be a contract that your county attorney would have to draft between the county and the EDA as to how that transaction would work, both transferring ownership from the county to the EDA and then vice versa, right? What happens with the proceeds? And you can have all the proceeds go back to the county. You can leave some of the proceeds with the EDA as seed capital, if you will, for tightly defined purposes, or whatever you all see fit, as the county commissioner is actually selling the land or transferring the land to the EDA in the first place. So the decision really rests with you on the county side first in laying out what your expectations would be in transferring that property to the EDA.
Okay. All right.
Madam Chair, just before we go into this resolution, I want to kind of make sure that the public understands that there was three main purposes to why we're creating this EDA. First and foremost is the liquidation of property. The second one is just to be able to have the opportunities to partner between the city, to partner with the cities and townships in the county to help them meet their goals. And then the third one was to be able to have access to state and federal grants that without a county EDA, we wouldn't have access to. There is absolutely no interest in creating another taxing authority, and we are not giving this political subdivision the ability to have a taxing authority. I think those are really big highlights that I want everybody to understand when we're going into this.
Thank you. That's exactly it.
And Madam Chair.
Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we do this process here, it's been long, but it is pretty well defined what our mission and goal is with the formation of this. And like I say, the county got back into the SEDS, the County Economic Development Strategies, here a couple of years back. We were out of it for almost a decade. We're back in that, and like I say, the access to state and federal grants that otherwise are not there for us. And if we try to get like a Shutterfly, just using that as an example, something like that, and we need or somebody like that to help us, you score points, you score points on how you get the funding, and if we need a little bit of help, I want to have that in the toolbox for future boards to be able to access. If you get that option to have something like that, you want to make sure that all the resources come to bear so we don't lose it to a neighboring county that did it. I think it's well defined out what the scope and purpose is, and I believe that the county board at any time can nix this thing if they think it's not doing its function anymore.
Yep. Commissioner Burrell, how do you feel about that?
Well, I was just thinking, I was just going to raise my hand. Thank you, Madam Chair. But it's like, the reason that we're considering this EDA, it was my understanding because we have buildings to liquidate and get rid of, or are we doing the EDA because now we have a what do you call it, a good springboard to get it going, I was kind of under the impression that we're doing this just to liquidate the buildings, and then I would say to keep it at a minimum, like Mr. Kimmel said, is, just, if it was up to me, I would just say put all the money back to the county and just use this to get rid of the buildings. And then let's say it's still going to be around for another 3-4 years. If there is something really major where it's going to really benefit the county, well, then I think a future board would look at it and say, let's go for it. But cities have these, I got that, but the cities are in it for the cities. And when we do it as a county level, now the county is going to be picking winners and losers, so to speak. And that's where I get a little bothered, because my particular district is kind of removed from the big metro area. So I hope you understand where I'm coming from.
Madam Chair, I just want to give you some little bit of a perspective. There's a big thing that city EDAs really struggle with, where county EDAs really come in, is in broadband expansion and deed grants and being able to utilize that, because where the broadband isn't is in the townships, and being able to make those connections between municipalities to municipalities. That's where county EDAs really have the robustness to be able to access funds that the cities can't, because they're accessing funds for infrastructure that's literally trying to make better communication, better connections. And that, I'm not saying that we're creating to do that. I mean, yes, 80% of what we're doing for this is for the liquidation of properties. The other 10% is that, you know what, if we're going to do this, we should at least be cognizant that there is some other potential benefits, and let's at least keep our eyes open to those options. Does that make sense to you, Commissioner Burrell?
No, I think I'm okay with that, Commissioner Vetch. I mean, it's like, that's why I'm saying if it was something down the road where it's really beneficial to the county, but you also have to consider, though, because some of the cities that have these EDA deals, that they make a sweetheart deal to bring a business into town, and the business fails, then, you know, that's not good for anybody either.
Right. And I mean, I don't know what, you know, future boards might determine where they would want to take this or not. I mean, we've got so much going on right now that, aside from perhaps going after some state and federal grants to help things like the broadband, I mean, me personally, I don't think that we're out there soliciting businesses. It's not that at some point we wouldn't help, but I think right now our main focus is to be able to liquidate this or market our properties, and that's kind of our primary function right now, I see, as forming this EDA. And it could take a different turn at some point in 10 years or whatever, and it might not be, we might decide in 5 years that we're going to shut it down. So that's up to the board then. But anybody?
Is the discussion here? I mean, the discussion really is around whether we want to adopt his timeline
Right.
too.
I don't know if you know. I mean, I'm certainly not opposed to that, but at the same time, I just don't know if it's necessary. Commissioner Burrell, go ahead.
Well, and Madam Chair, I guess this is just after listening to Bruce's input there, as far as you could have something on the table yet at the end of 5 years. But I guess then maybe just in the resolution, or whenever I guess it's going to be a resolution, is to say that this will have to be reconsidered by a board in 5 years. So it's not necessarily that it sunsets per se, but it has to be brought up and given consideration again. I guess I could support that as well.
That's
Madam Chair, so would that be something that would be within the bylaws, that every 5 years that the EDA has to, by resolution, reaffirm their purposes and their functionality, that without that resolution passed by the EDA and the county board in sync, that they could then dissolve? I mean,
what do you think about that?
Yeah, so Commissioner Vetch, if I could draw you, and Madam Chair and Commissioners, if I could draw your attention to section 5.02, if you have the resolution in front of you, let me just read it. It says, annually at a time and in the form determined by the county board, the authority shall make a written report to the county board giving a detailed account of its activities and of its receipts and expenditures during the preceding calendar year, together with additional matters and recommendations that it deems advisable for the economic development of the county. There's another provision after that basically says once a year the EDA shall basically tell the county board if it wants to make any modifications to the enabling resolution. That would be to either increase or decrease the powers available to it. For instance, your bond counsel at Kenny and Graven asked there's an option for EDAs to proactively take on HRA powers. And she asked me, this is Julie Eddington at Kenny and Graven, she asked me, well, should I include HRA powers in this resolution? And I said no, because it was not something that we actively discussed during the advisory committee. I said this board and committee really wanted to focus the powers solely on EDA activities, even if you could have had a more expansive set of powers. But that isn't to say that, you know, down the road, a county board and an EDA could choose for some reason to exercise some specific HRA power. All I'm trying to say is that this enabling resolution does already contemplate some level of introspection and of a transparency and discussion between the EDA and the county boards as to the EDA's purpose for being, right? And you could certainly modify that. I think that just from my perspective, there's already going to be ample opportunity between the EDA board, which is again going to be 5/7 county commissioners, and the county board to say, you know what, this has been a good run, but we really just don't see a need for it. Let's shut it down. Or to say, gee, this really is providing a value and we should, you know, keep going with it. I'm reluctant to impose things that could gum up the works inadvertently, like a timeline, but certainly that's a policy decision that you all get to decide.
So Commissioner Burrell, does that pretty much address?
It does in a way, but I think, I just wish it was a little stronger. I'm hearing what Bruce is saying there, that, you know, that it's just part of the modus, you know, the regular thing that we look at it once a year. But I think that we really, if we had something written in to like seriously check the need for this in 5 years, I guess I would feel better about that. Because this way it just seems like it's going to be a rubber stamp every year, and I'm not saying that's for sure, but it could be that kind of you know.
Yeah, I mean, I read it that annually this is going to be reviewed and it's going to be determined if you want to continue, but Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We know that there's guaranteed 4 years from now, there's only 2 commissioners that are here because the other 2 will be up for re-election. There'll be 2 new ones, obviously. But I have faith in Watchdog Commissioner Vetch to make sure that this does what it's supposed to do, because if it's not doing that, he'll be the first one to bark and scream and holler that this has got to go. I mean, I do trust him on this one, because if it does not do its function, he's not going to be really thrilled with it, and he's kind of a wallflower anyway. He doesn't really talk much. But I think we've got enough safeguards in place with Commissioner Vetch here just by itself on this issue.
Yeah, I agree. I feel that, you know, those two sections, section 5, it's required annual actions is what it's called. So we have to take action every year on this.
But Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
there's value in having the EDA, even if, let's say, we go 3 years from now and we get to the point where it's there, but we don't utilize it, it becomes dormant. But who's to say that a year or 2 from then, all of a sudden there is some other county garage property that we need to use the county EDA to liquidate it? So it doesn't have any cost to us it's sitting there dormant, we don't meet, it doesn't, no staff time to it, but having it there and not having to go through the cost of creating it again and the work to creating it again, that's where I want to prevent, because Commissioner Burrell, it's dissolving it after 5 years and then 2 years after that having to recreate it, that's a cost. Having it sit dormant, as long as we don't change the scope of what it can do, then it's...
Yeah, and that's a very valid point. You can certainly, the board can say, you know, hey, we haven't got anything in the works, you know, let's just let it go to sleep for however long until we need to wake it up again. So, are you more comfortable with that, Commissioner Burrell? Oh, Bruce?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, I was just going to say, I did want to recognize Commissioner Vetch's idea from earlier also. You know, I guess, given that Bond Counsel Eddington did draft this, and I think it's a very solid resolution, I might advise you to approve it as is, but Commissioner Vetch raised the idea of putting something more robust in the bylaws, and I kind of like the idea of a annual report that goes beyond here's what we did, here's what we want to do, here's our revenues and expenses, and actually has a so here, commissioners, you know, is our recommendation that the EDA, you know, either keeps going for XYZ reasons or goes dormant, or you actually shut it down, right? And you actually have not just mushy rubber stamp, because Commissioner Burrell, you make a good point. I've seen plenty of just rubber stamp types of reports, but actually you have in the bylaws of the EDA that there be an annual, you know, we recommend for the next year A, B, or C. Keep going for, you know, all these reasons, or B, go dormant but don't shut it down, or C, shut it down. And then, you know, the EDA board and the county board get to have, and granted it's going to be mostly the same people, but then you actually have something specifically that addresses that question. You know, I agree with Commissioner Potter, Commissioner Vetch, and I'm sure future commissioners are going to be keeping a close eye on this. You have a strong propensity towards limited government there in Wright County, and I don't see this becoming a massive bureaucracy by any stretch of the imagination. But if you want some comfort in the bylaws of the EDA, by all means, let's actually put that in there as something that is part of the annual report.
So we could just add that sentence essentially to 5.02, Bruce? Or? No,
Madam Chair, I would actually recommend that this be part of your more informal discussion or direction to the EDA to, and again, you're all going to be on the EDA, but that this go into the bylaws, not this resolution in front of you today. That's just my recommendation as a non-lawyer.
Okay. Commissioner Brill?
And Madam Chair, I like what Bruce just said. I like that idea, because it is going a little bit more than just, you know, here's what we did, and that's our report every year. So.
Okay. So we could add that section to the bylaws.
At our first EDA meeting.
Yep.
Madam Chair?
And if you see fit to have me work with you on the bylaws, and you know, Greg's on this call as well, and Lee, I mean, I think we're all hearing it loud and clear that you want a little bit more beef there as it relates to justification for its reason for being going forward.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Commissioner Vetch?
I'm going to make a motion for the resolution for the establishment of the Wright County Economic Development Authority, and after there's a second, I want to make one timeline clarification.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Vetch, seconded by Commissioner Potter. Commissioner Vetch?
Mr. Kimmel, are we going to be, then at the first of the year, we would have a kind of a workshop then to actually formalize the EDA's internal bylaws in the establishment of the other two vacant positions on the EDA, correct?
Correct.
And then at that
yes,
time,
Commissioner Vetch. So it'd be my understanding that you would really kick this off and put those pieces in place in 2021, early 2021, including, I should note that the board chair, at whatever time you see fit to take those steps, would be officially naming the two outside members, but with the consent of the rest of the county board.
Okay.
One additional question, then at that time we will work on the notification then to the municipalities and township for participation at that workshop. We would be creating that paperwork as well, correct?
Correct. Thank you for raising that. That was one of the next steps that I put in a memo, I think, that you all saw, and that will be really crucial, communicating to cities and townships what the game plan is, the self-imposed limitations on your powers or expected limitation on your powers, such as no EDA levy, and asking those entities to essentially buy into it with their geographic participation.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Burrell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I said, I'm going to have to just put my trust in the board when it comes to doing these bylaws up. But I do want to make sure that, like what Bruce was just talking about, is rather than just an all-out end it in a certain time or whatever, to have it go dormant. I actually like that idea, because then if there really was a true need for it, the board could resurrect it without going through all this expense again. So I think in the bylaws, give those choices out, Bruce, kind of the way you spelled it out a little bit ago.
Yep,
Madam Chair,
point, yes.
Commissioner Burrell, I got your back on that. So
Yep.
I'll make sure that those bylaws are well spelled out in your, to meet your liking.
All right. Is there,
I didn't hear that, Derek, but
he supports you.
I will make sure that the bylaws meet your demands, Commissioner Burrell, at the first of the year.
Commissioner Delyden?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just think, if you don't like where it's going, Charlie, it's a good reason for you and I to get together and go pound on Commissioner Vetch's door at that time.
All right. If there is no more discussion, this is a resolution, roll call vote. Commissioner Burrell?
Burrell is going to vote aye, trusting the rest of the board.
Aye.
Vetch?
Aye.
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 All right, resolution passes 5-0. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Bruce.
this has been, thank you, Bruce. This is,
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
yeah, thank you. You too. All right, so we can move on to our public hearing. Mr. Kreiser.
Yes. Hello, Madam Chair, members of the board. Here for a public hearing on 3 assessments that were done over the last year. One of them was done in Chatham Township. This is for a public health cleanup in the amount of $914.24. And then we had a court-ordered abatement of an illegal RV that was placed in French Lake Township for $4,802.62. And then we had a court-ordered septic system that was upgraded after a property owner, for whatever reason, did not do it themselves, in the amount of $15,977. Notice was published as required underneath the statute. Certified letters were mailed to all the property owners at the addresses that are on file with the county auditor's office. I have received no requests for comments, and no one's reached out to me with anything written. So if there's no one, I guess we can open it for public comment. Madam Chair, just in the event someone's in the room, but otherwise, I haven't received any comments.
All right. Yes, is there anyone in-house or on
Gotta open
the
the public hearing first.
phone? Oh, yeah, sorry about that. I will open up for public comment if there's anyone in the house or joining us remotely that would like to make comment on any of these 3 properties. Do we do them one at a time? Greg, or just all together?
Madam Chair, there are 3 separate resolutions
All right.
for the board, so we probably should do them separate.
Did we
All
do
right,
3
yep.
times and close the
So
public
we
hearing?
will, we will open the public hearing for the property at 413 Coburn Avenue Northwest in Chatham Township. Is there anyone that would like to comment? Is there anyone that would like to comment? If there's anyone that would like to comment, hearing none, we'll close that public comment for Chatham Township.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for assessment for the Chatham Township property.
Second.
Else.
Motion made by Commissioner Vetch, seconded by Commissioner Potter. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Burrell?
Aye.
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 All right. That resolution is approved. The second resolution, I'll open for public comment, is on 4695 Rhodes Avenue Northwest in French Lake Township. Is there anyone that would like to make a comment? Is there anyone that would like to make a comment? Is there anyone that would like to make a comment? Hearing none, I'll close the public comments on the resolution for Rhodes Avenue in Crest Lake Township.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve that resolution.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Delyden. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Vetch. Any comments by the board? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Burrell?
Burrell votes aye.
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 All right, resolution passes. And the third one is, I'm missing my sheet. I gotta pull it out here. Is, I will open up the public comments for 228 97th Street Northwest in Silver Creek Township. Is there anyone that would like to make a comment? Is there anyone that would like to make a comment? Is there anyone that would like to make a comment? Hearing none, I'll close the public comment period and bring it to the board. Would like, all
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for assessment on the property in Silver Creek Township.
right, motion made by
Second.
Commissioner Betts, seconded by Commissioner Potter. Any comments by the board? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Burrell?
Burrell votes aye.
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 All right, resolution passes. All right. We will close the public hearing on those three resolutions. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Greg.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, so moving right along to our, now I got my sheets all mixed up. Yes, Matt Schreifler, welcome, Chief Deputy.
Madam Chair, members of the board. So we're seeking to formally join the Joint Powers Agreement with the BCA for the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. We've kind of been loosely affiliated with that organization for several years. We've been working those cases since at least 2016, 2015, but without the benefit of being part of the task force. So joining the task force gives us opportunities to seek reimbursement for training, for equipment, resources, overtime, costs associated with those cases, and would also give us official point of access both to the BCA task force and for them to contact us directly with a point of contact person. This year alone, we've worked 15 cases that would qualify under the ICAC definition of internet crimes against children. Last year we had 8 cases. Given just the nature of how these cases work, I would estimate that number to kind of slowly increase. Having the benefit of being part of the organization would be advantageous for both for the county and for the sheriff's office.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly appreciate this Joint Powers Agreement. It's real, it's sad work and it's important work.
Yeah.
Yes, very important. Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve entering into a joint powers agreement with the Minnesota BCA to participate in the Minnesota Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force.
I'll second that.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Potter, seconded by Commissioner Vetch.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Chief Treichler, your statement that unfortunately the cases are growing with it. I'd like to hope to believe it's only growing because our population's growing, but unfortunately I don't know if it's just that we're just being able to be more robust and being able to proactively go after it, or if it's, I mean, that's, because I hope it's not a growing problem. That's, you just don't, hard to wrap your head around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with technology improving on the investigative end, our ability to identify those particular images or cases that are affiliated with a known victim. That's one of the reasons why those cases are increasing. One of the problems is when you have an image that you believe to be involved in that type of case, but you can't verify its legitimacy or the known victim to that case, then you're falling short of a prosecution standard.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Delyden, you had a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I was just kind of curious if there was a cost associated with this. I'm assuming it'd be minimal if there was any at all.
There's no outward cost to the sheriff's office or the county. One avenue where there could be a cost is if we had a large case that involved another jurisdiction being the primary investigative agency, and they asked for resources from us to help associate with that case. Typically in those cases though, there's going to be some affiliation to Wright County or some involvement with Wright County. So That would be the only minimal cost. The reality is we'll probably benefit from recouping some investigative costs from the BCA that we currently can't.
All right.
Yep.
Yep, thank you very much.
All right, is there any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Burrell?
Burrell votes aye.
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 Thank you, Board.
Motion passes. Thank you so
Matt.
much. All right. Items for consideration, the Personnel Committee of the Whole, Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Personnel Committee of the Whole met on November 17th, and the record reflect that nobody was absent. Isn't that nice to know? The present people were the discussion of the 2021 salaries, that was typed in there, for the county attorney, the sheriffs, the auditor treasurers, and the county commissioners. We started off with the county attorney. Brian Looks is the incoming county attorney. Discussed information related to compensation in his position. Commissioner Vetch had said he was proposing an annual salary of 161 to 162. Lutz had asked for an annual salary of, I think that was a typo too, 165, to bring compensation close to that of comparable counties. But the recommendation coming out of all the talk and experience and that Mr. Lutz brings to the table, recommendation was authorize an annual compensation of $162,000 for 2021, the county attorney. Next item was the sheriff's. Sheriff Derringer, so the Wright County officer's third largest in the state, more contracts than any other sheriff's office. It's his largest patrol division. His current salary is $148,000 a year, which is the third lowest salary in the comparable counties, which is kind of it doesn't always fit in all narratives, but you know we have to have something to gauge it by. Mr. Derringer said he receives calls at all hours of the day, night, works 60 to 75 hours a week. Welcome to being sheriff. You know, it's a tough gig. You don't get the days off unless you're gone. The consensus was to increase the county sheriff's compensation to a salary of $161,500 to 2021, and that was to get it closer in line with where it's at. I mean, it's if you're looking for perfection in these, good luck. The next item was the auditor treasurer's office. Bob Hevela requested an increase of 2.25%. for an annual compensation of $141,270.65. The consensus of the board was to increase his compensation by 1.5% of his salary to $140,235 for 2021. Okay, the next one is the county commissioners. We discussed and approved the compensation that would attract qualified people to serve accurately reflects the level of responsibility involved in as anybody's been following us the last 8 years here. It's known that we've been a little bit on the active side of this board. A lot of things that need to get discussed with a growing county. It's not going to get any simpler. We're not going back to Leave It to Beaver days. It's not happening. So the consensus was to increase the county commissioner compensation by 2.25% of the salary to $51,045 for 2021, and that is the same with rank and file what they got for an increase. So it's the same as what the rank and file got. So with that, Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Potter. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Vetch. To approve the minutes and the recommendations. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Burrell.
Burrell votes aye.
Delighten votes aye.
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 All right. The minutes and the recommendation are approved. And our next committee of the whole on November 18th, Commissioner Vetch.
So on November 18th, the county board, as well as a vast majority of the legislators in the Wright County area in attendance. I do want to give them justification, so I will read them out. Senator Anderson, Senator Matthews, Representative Lucero, Representative McDonald, Representative Meckland, Representative Novotny, Representative O'Neill, and Representative Erdahl were all in attendance. A variety of staff as well. So the county board had put together a variety of topics that it would like to share with the legislators to solidify their support into this upcoming session. We narrowed it down to a small scope of ones that we'd like to discuss, but then also included a variety of other topics for them to look at as well. The discussion number one revolved around the driver vehicle services and the testing. We've had concerns in the previous session regarding the accessibility to road testing and then the Buffalo testing facility being closed down and wanting to know what the future is for that. We also discussed about the potential for some delegated authority associated with road testing to be able to make it more customer friendly. Second item that we discussed was the election fundings and processes. There was a variety of discussions that came out of this last election cycles with the large amount of absentee ballots and early voting that took place, and some different maybe mechanisms that need to be considered going forward, and funding that may be needed to make that happen. The third item that was discussed was the Wright County support with Health and Human Services waivers and telehealth strategies. Basically looking for some more efficiencies to improve outcome in the delivery of this service. Looking to garner some more support on that matter. The third issue, which we knew was going to be a tough one, was the increased aquatic invasive species funding. With the state going into a deficit, we understand that it was highly unlikely that would be possible, but we also wanted to paint the picture that the funds that we have had have been flat for almost a couple decades now, and the purchasing power that those dollars have has diluted vastly over those decades. So, and with the increased amount of or how much the issue has increased over the years, it's something that we need to be cognizant going forward. With that, Madam, that's all informational. I make a motion to approve the minutes from the November 18th Legislative Committee of the Whole.
All right. Motion made by Commissioner Vetch. Is there a second?
Burrell will second.
Second.
Burrell will second.
All right, seconded by Commissioner Burrell. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Burrell.
Burrell votes aye.
Delight.
Aye.
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 All right, the minutes are approved. Thank you, everybody. We had good discussion. So moving on to our next item, and that's administration scheduled closed session committee of the whole regarding the administrator performance review. Administrator Kelly.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to get this done with the current board still in place, given my review period is up here in January. So looking at some different dates here yet before the end of the year, maybe around that week of the 14th, if that would work for the board. We could look at the Monday the 14th in the late morning prior to HHS, if that's potentially workable. Otherwise, after that Tuesday board meeting, which may be a longer one. Just throwing out a few dates, so.
What's the board's wishes? I mean, if we have a long meeting on the 15th, perhaps it is better to have it on a different day.
Yeah.
We're not sure about committee at this point, right?
Correct.
So we could schedule it right before the HHS meeting, essentially at 12:30, and then we'd have the HHS meeting at 1:30, if that works for folks. Have your lunch before 12:30 and join us.
Whatever works for you guys.
Charlie, do you have a comment?
And Madam Chair, yeah, what date is that on? You said at 12:30?
Yep, December 14th.
Oh, okay, I can do that.
All right. Mark, does that work for you?
Yeah, it works for me.
Okay.
December 14th?
14th at 12:30. All right, is there a motion to set that meeting?
At 12:30 or 12?
12:30.
12:30, okay, December.
All right, moved by Commissioner Potter. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Delyden. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Burrell.
Burrell votes aye.
Delyden?
Aye.
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 All right. The motion passes and we'll see you on the 14th.
Sounds good.
All right. Advisory Committee Advisory Board updates. We've got a few minutes before our 10:30 meeting. Anyone has any comments?
No,
Burrell, would you
Madam
like
Chair.
to start?
I'll start it off. I have nothing.
Okay. Commissioner Delyden.
The only thing I got is, the Wellness Committee, had met on the 17th. That Better Back program they've got, there's 98 people signed up for that program. They've got maybe some need for some Bloodmobile volunteers, which is on December 3rd. For any of you that have extra blood to give. And then November 23rd through January 5th is that Jingle All the Way program to keep the weight off for the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. And that's about it.
All right. Commissioner Vetch.
There's a variety of things. I'm just going to hit the highlighted Trailblazer. Last week, Trailblazer met, and MnDOT once again is fulfilling all of the, due to the pandemic, all the local share. So the only cost differential that we'll have this year is our increased amount of operating expense, which basically goes to our savings account over there at Trailblazer. So, which is a budgeted item, and the funds are within the budget. So things are moving forward there. Obviously, because of the pandemic, ridership is down, as a lot of people that use this system for work are not going to work, especially because of our largest contractor, Functional Industries, once again is vastly shut down. So that is unfortunate, but we're moving forward with it. I guess for that side of it, we are approved for most of our replacement buses. We're not doing any kind of expansion at this time, so that's all I have out of interest in time. So.
Okay, thank you. Greg Picard, you have a comment?
Yeah, hey, morning, board. Hey, Derek, did you guys talk about, are they going to continue providing the veteran transportation? Because during this COVID, they kind of stepped up to the plate when the VA shut down their transportation, and they're taking our vets to their different appointments at St. Cloud, VA, Minneapolis, VA, or any of the other appointments. Are they continuing that?
That is the intent, at least through February, I believe.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. A few things. I was at the law library, my first time in the new law library at the Justice Center, and Frank was gracious to be there and set us up for our remote meeting for those that couldn't be there in person. And we reviewed our annual report and our budget for 2021, and also Tom Kelly is retiring at the end of the year, so I got appointed as a chairman for next year. But they've been very busy out there, so a lot of the law libraries area haven't really reopened, and so they've been helping a lot of folks, and it's a great service. I'm so glad they're so robust here in Wright County. And Annandale Safe Schools, of course, a lot of discussion about how we have to continue to punt essentially with school openings and whatever, but Annandale football, they are undefeated this year, so that was pretty cool. Good news for them, yeah. And also Tom Kelly made a very generous donation to the law library of old law library books that his uncle had, so that was pretty cool. And Safe Harbor Retreat. So, the Safe Harbor with the generally sexually exploited youth, we've been working on those protocols, and we had a retreat last Friday for about over 3 hours. And so anyway, we want to do some kind of a presentation to the county board too, to kind of bring you up to speed about just what the policies and that kind of thing are at some point. And last, I'll just wanted to do a shout out to one of our employees, Allison Sturm, who made 1,000. She and her daughters made 1,000 masks for people in their school and also communities. So So thank you, Allison, for doing that. Otherwise, Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to piggyback off what Commissioner Vetch said about Trailblazer Board. The increased amount is operating funds to make sure we got 25% of the, and that's county money, period. If something happens and we leave, we go away, that comes, as a whole, comes back to the county. We want to make that real clear to people that we're just not doing this annual. This is just an increase in the cost of the budget because we get that in the bylaws. And that's the good. They also want to do, talk about the meals that they've delivered this year has been phenomenal. The amount of the Trailblazer, they stepped up big time.
They sure did.
And then the next item with the Commissioner Hewsome with the law library, that gentleman that's out there said from the first day they opened up, they've been busy out there with people. It's definitely a needed, used service by our constituents here. That people probably don't really realize how much that's being used, but they're going to start tracking how many people are coming in, just so you get a snapshot every so often, how many people came in and used the law library.
Yeah, and we do have the stats, you know.
Yeah, so, because it's definitely, it's right off the get-go, when they first opened up on that Monday, they were busy right from the opening bell, which is, it's good. I'm happy that. No other issues to deal with this week, Madam Chair.
Administrator Kelly.
All right, just a few things. We'll be meeting this afternoon with Flaherty and Hood and get moving the next steps on the dental center. Trying to coordinate with that. We'd heard first from the state, starting to make the connections on getting the money for the bonding. So that'll be good. We have our trading post for the ERP project this afternoon to share information about the project with our staff stakeholders. What's cool about today's meeting, we're going to be doing some demos of different areas of the system as we start to get things configured. So I know a lot of folks have been interested in seeing parts of the system, so that'll be fun. Just also wanted to put out the reminder, our night meeting, or formerly known as Truth and Taxation, will be next week, the 1st, at 6 p.m. So folks are interested in attending. We're, of course, trying to abide by the governor's orders. We've tried to space out the room here. We will also have arranged for overflow seating in 120 on the video in there, so if we do get more, then we can space out effectively here. Of course, it will also be streamed live on our YouTube, so just want to make people aware that that's out there and have access to it. So
Sounds good. All right. Yeah, December already. So, all right, if there's no other business to come before the board, we adjourn at 10:24 and committee of the whole at 10:30. Thanks, everybody.